Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today we're down on a section on our lifetime lease. This is the Eastern Gama grass field, and this is the water that we have set up for the Eastern Gama grass field. This hydrant right here is actually plumbed in up the hill behind me in a pond. And so it's probably, well, if I turn around and go into it, yeah, there you go. It's up that valley. It's probably 200 feet up there. So we're actually losing elevation coming down the hill. We're gaining pressure. I'm not real crazy about that that hydrant. That is a cheap one, and I think I am going to dig it up because it is restricting the flow to our tank. And I'm going to put in one of the plastic quick couplers. Just looking at that fitting there, it looks like it's leaking, but it's not. It's just the condensation. We had a sheep tank in here yesterday. It was about a, I don't know, 100-gallon one, and it couldn't keep up with. We've got 55 bulls out here. You'll see them in a minute. We're going to go out there and look at them. But this tank is set up directly on the line. So there's a hot wire going across it. The paddock to your left here, that's the Eastern Gama, which you'll see in a minute. And the paddock to your right is a cool season grass paddock up here on the hill. So this one tank is serving two paddocks. And I'm going to get over it. This is our old sheep fence. I got it. Yo. And what's kind of cool is this cherry tree. That's a wild cherry tree that grew up over the years. And we didn't cut it down. It's shade. And so it kind of shades. It's got a natural shade on that tank right there, which is kind of cool. We did level it. We got it good and level. We got some blocks underneath it. And we are going to haul some rock in here. So the animals, especially the sheep.
Sheep can't drink that.
The sheep, no way they can drink out of that. It's too high. But these bars here on the front, those are solid fiberglass bars. Those are, if the cows or the cow mob or the bull mob would come over here and drink that water down too low, they could pull that tank out of there just with their heads. And now you got a mud pit out here. The water be running. They might even break the hose off from the tank. So that's what those are. And we're going to get some rock hauled in here. It's going to take probably at least a good foot here on this side. And there's our drain. We've got a drain over there so we can drain the tank if we want. But this is a terrace that goes all the way along this bottom. And there's about 8 acres down in here. And that does have a rock pad underneath it right there, but it's just settled so much, plus the big terrace. It'd be nice if that tank set down lower, but I don't want to dig the terrace out because then the water, it kind of defeats the purpose. That's an old terrace that was probably put in 50 years ago. But you can see the bulls are out here in the Gama. And we're going to walk toward them. So the first day we had them in here, we brought them down the road. There's 55 head of bulls. Brought them down the road over there by the pickup truck, came through that gate, and we gave them one piece all the way to the end down there. And then we moved over to the next set of bird houses. I think there's about 30 bird houses down here in this bottom. It's funny, when we moved them this morning, the tree swallows were just absolutely going nuts. There we go. So there's shade at that far end. There's a couple of big elm trees down there. But these are long strips, so we split this whole bottom into 3. So the bulls are on their last third today. We're just moving these once a day. And they really walk back and forth on this Gama grass. They've ate a bunch of it. And with that, let's get a little closer here. There's the free choice mineral. You see these are all pretty much yearling bulls. I think there's 3 2-year-olds left in here, but the rest of them are all yearlings. These will be bulls that will be marketed next year, and possibly some of them later this fall. But there's a bunch of steers in here too. We're going to be taking care of those tomorrow. So I'm going to hand it over to Jan. I just wanted to kind of go through the Gama field. You can see down here on the ground, this Gama was planted in rows on 32-inch centers back in probably 95, 96, somewhere in that time period. I actually had my field drilled the same time as this field was. Steve, our landowner, Steve and Cindy, his dad and I met at an Eastern Gama grass field day. And so this was drilled with a corn planter, a no-till corn planter, on 32-inch rows. And it's been in here ever since. There's lots of other stuff in here though. You've got when I leased it, it was all bare soil. It was bare soil between the rows of Gama. And when they ate the Gama, there wasn't anything left to eat. Well, now we've got clovers. We've got this stick tight, which is it's a legume. The cattle and the sheep just adore it. The sheep more than the cattle. They'll strip every one of those leaves off of there. Of course, we got red top. Here's some red top right here. This is red top grass, and then we have the always faithful Timothy. There's some orchard grass down in here. Just a whole menagerie of stuff. There's even some Korean Lespedeza starting to come on down in the lower canopy. So these bulls are getting a good diet. They're not just eating Gama, they're getting all the other beneficial grasses to boot. So I think it's all about diversity. You want diversity in your pastures. You don't want a solid stand of anything. And if you've got that, what you've got is a monoculture. So when the pests come in to chew on your crop or your grass, in this instance, if you've got one type of plant out there, all you've got is one type of root down on the ground. And so by having this diversity, these roots all source minerals and nutrients differently, and they share with each other. And that's what makes this such a strong field. Used to be that first year or so I leased this, when you got the Gama grazed off in the fall, early fall, you had to be off of it by September 15th, into September at the latest. There wasn't anything to graze in here in the wintertime. Well, the animals still need to eat in wintertime. Well, now we've got all these other cool seasons in here, and there's something to eat. So we can come through this field at least twice in the wintertime with our sheep flock, and the cows, and we can get a lot of good grazing off of this. I want to get in here a little closer and show you. The Gama grass has a self-regulating mechanism as far as grazing height. So the animals
stand over there, so your knees.
So the animals came over here. They'll get this leaf by morning. They haven't got that one yet. But look at that. I mean, this is the seed head right here. So these are the seeds, and the cows, or in this instance, the bulls are eating those, and they're going to be moved over into the next paddock. They're going to be pooping those seeds out. Oh, they are. I can hear them back there. They're coming toward us. But see that? If you leave the bulls in here an extra day and don't move them, they'll come back and they'll take another bite of that. And now they've shortened that Gama down even lower. You've destroyed your solar collector, and it's not going to grow back as quickly. So Gama can grow back really quick as long as you have adequate rainfall. Even without rainfall, this stuff has a taproot 18 feet deep. They dug down with a track hoe and found that out. Here's some mature seed right here. So the cattle and the bulls are eating this. See those little chunks coming off there? They're eating that. And so it's going to end up in the manure patch. Oh, look at that.
So Greg, how did we used to manage this field?
Well, when we first managed this field, it was with a mob. You know, we just give them the whole field, and there wasn't any management to it. We just, we put the animals in, when they ran out of food, we moved them. Well, now with this strip grazing that we're doing, we're getting more intensity. You notice the animals are all right here in this strip. We don't have a back fence. Folks, as long as you're moving your animals twice a day, you don't need a back fence. Did you hear that? That's been fouled. It's been walked on, stepped on. They put all the carbon on the ground. A lot of it's left standing. They're out here. Look at them. It's just a beautiful sight.
But didn't we used to burn?
Oh gosh, yeah. I burned this field one time.
Because that's one of the management practices.
That's one of the management practices, Eastern Gama. I burned it. I threw a match on it in the early spring. Must have been about March, April, sometime in that period. And I mean, when this thing took off, there was dead thatch out here this tall. And when it took off burning, it looked like a coliseum, a sports coliseum. It was at night. It lit up the whole countryside. Scared me to death. Now, I lit a backfire too. I had a backfire all the way around it. I lit the head fire over here. When that thing took off, it sounded like a locomotive. There was flames 16 to 20 feet in the air, and it was rolling. It was making its own wind. It took off that way. It went through my fence. Luckily, it didn't burn my post off. But folks, when you light a match, you're responsible for it.
And what's that promoting?
Well, it's promoting bare ground. Fire kills soil microbes. I know there's a tool, and it is a tool. Fire is a tool, but don't overuse it. I think we are overusing it as a rule of thumb. We just burn, burn, burn. I see people burning stuff they shouldn't be burning. I'd rather use animals to trample this stuff on the land, build the soil, and so all this stuff that's left over, when the cattle come through, this all gets trampled on the ground. That's building carbon. If you burn it, it goes up in the atmosphere. It's done. You're not feeding anything. So the anti of life is fire. You kill it, you burn it. We want life in the soil, so for heaven's sakes, 70 to 80% of all soil life resides in that first 3 inches. So if you're out here burning your land every spring because they tell you to do it, it's a warm season, you got to burn it. Well, what that does is it does set back the cool season grasses, and you get a lot more warm season grasses. I'm talking about diversity here. I'm talking about making a living on the land. That's what I want to do. And we still have Gama in here. I mean, there's a lot of Gama in here, but I do want some cool seasons in with my Gama. I don't want it to pure. I'm not a purist in the fact that I just want all Gama. Now, I had this question, and so I'm going to address it right here. Greg, how do you go from, let's say, management intensive grazing where you moved them? This was a MIG farm for years. We'd put them in here, we'd leave them a couple days, we'd move them to the next paddock a couple days. And the question was, how do you extend your grazing periods from the springtime to now? We're in July, or will be. We're right at the end of June. It's getting hotter now. Typically, our cool season grasses slow down. What do? Do you keep doing that 30-day rotation you did this spring? Absolutely not. So I've tightened the animals up. To give you an idea, this paddock, we ran the animals in here this spring. This was one paddock for 1 day. This time we got 3 days out of it by stripping it, making it smaller, increasing our stock and density. Well, if you went from 1 to 3 just on this one paddock, and you do that around your whole farm, you've added 2/3 more rest time to your whole farm. That's how you do it. You start at the water point over there. So we got, you can see it over there. And you give them the water section first, and then you start moving your wires away from your water. And you can do that without a back fence for up to 4 days. After the 4th day, the cows will go back and start regrazing the plants they've already grazed before.
Because they're regrowing.
They're regrowing. It's tender, it's new, it's succulent, it's palatable. It tastes better to them than this stuff they've already grazed like this. That's more woody. Maybe they didn't graze on the first pass. Animals will go back and get another bite if you leave them past 4 days. But having said that, there is no bare soil in here. There's none. And that's what I'm excited about. And I'm gonna get the camera jammed. I want to take off up through here. And I'm going to show you all the slick, oily hides. I'm always talking about slick, oily hides. I got to catch up to them. You notice how they're all grazing in a uniform formation here, kind of like a bunch of soldiers going up and down this field. That's how you trample carbon, folks. I mean, there's seed heads out here. I measured one this morning that was over 6 foot. The stem and the seed and the leaves are over 6 feet on this Gama. It'll go to 8 feet if you don't do anything to it. Where's some of those real oily ones? Well, there you can see it. You can see the oily surface on the bowls. They're not cooperating very well. They're gonna take off like, no, you're not gonna put us on video. Oh yes, I am. Y'all need to slow down and let Greg catch up to you. They'll slow down here in a minute. See, you've got to have slick. If you don't know anything about animals, especially cows, and you're getting ready to pick out some animals for your farm, find ones that don't have any winter hair coat left on them. There's a few young ones in here that still have their hair coat, and those are going to be steers. So we steer the animals that don't shed off and keep the ones that do. Now, having said that, your 7 to 9 month old bulls, they're going to be a little bit slower shedding off. But here's a good example right here. Well, there's a steer for sure. You don't want him as a sire. He'll make a good steer. There's some pretty nice slick animals right there. That one's got a little bit of hair on his back. 05, you're a good looking dude. So are you. Those animals don't have any hair left on them. But now see, those two are 2-year-olds. And so the 2-year-old bulls, or heifers for that matter, they're always going to shed off sooner than a 1-year-old will. It's just the way it is. But now here's a 1-year, this one here is not even a year old yet. Boy, he's just slick as a button. Look at that. So he's an exceptional animal. Now all we got's a bunch of butts. they're walking away from us. You see, they're using each other's tails to keep the flies off each other, and to get close to each other, it actually keeps the flies from landing on their sides because their buddy's right next to them. So the flies can still attack from the very top. But it's kind of warm out here. We're going to be moving them into this field over here. So this is what it would have looked like this morning. We can walk up here to the fence. You can look across the field over there, or across the wire. There's a lot of Eastern Gama grass. And that's actually part of an old CRP field. But that's where they're going to be going tomorrow. And so they'll get to graze this the rest of tonight. And then in the morning, we're actually going to sort a bowl out of here. And we're going to do some cow crate banding this week. And I hope to do a video on that. We'll actually get them up in the corral, put them in the head catch, and we'll go through and sort out the ones that we're going to turn into steers. Kind of video that process. So it's a pretty simple procedure. Yeah, so that'll be a topic for another video. But with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here. We're going to see a bunch of you all this fall. In September, our grazing schools, both of them are sold out. I wanted to give a plug for that. I also wanted to tell people, you know, when you exit here, hit that subscribe button and the like. Hit the like button. And we appreciate it. And we're going to see you all down the road. Thank you all.